Grace, mercy, and peace be unto you from God our Father and our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Dear Emmanuel, you and I continue to live in that hope and peace and joy of our living and loving Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And that is why once again, during the season of Easter and every season of life, you and I say and sing and shout, Christ is risen. He is risen. Alleluia. Today's message is based on the gospel you heard Pastor Ryan read from Luke chapter 24. And it's the story of the risen Christ. He appeared to two people walking on the road from Jerusalem to a little town named Emmaus, about 7 miles away. And Luke says that very day, two of them were going to a village named Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem, and they were talking with each other about all of these things that had happened. And while they were talking and discussing together, Jesus himself drew near and went with them, but their eyes were kept from recognizing him. And Jesus said to them, "What is this conversation that you are having with each other as you walk?" And they stood still, looking sad. You and I can relate. We've been doing a bunch of talking recently on that journey of life and faith, and it's been filled with intense emotions. Those two men, they looked sad. And as we move forward in life, walking and talking and working and worshiping, do you and I recognize that Jesus is with us on the way? Take a look on the screen at an image of Jesus. You recognize him, but we're not quite sure how Jesus actually appeared. They had no statue or carving or painting of him. In fact, Jews would have forbid a graven image be made. There were statues of Caesar from even before the time of Christ, but Jesus was not in the fame or vanity. And yet, an interesting point to ponder. Have you ever noticed when you see a stained glass window, an image, a painting, a statue, and it's depicting Jesus? It may be completely different than another one, but we always seem to know who it is. Take a look at some more pictures and tell me who this is. Who is this one? It's stained glass, but you can still see that it's our Savior. Here's another picture. Who is this? It's kind of fuzzy, a mosaic, and yet we still recognize that it's Jesus. And check out this image. Who is that? It's a cartoon. And yet even in a cartoon depiction or image, we recognize that it is Jesus. Here's another picture. Who is this? That is Winston Churchill. That is not Jesus. I'm just seeing if you're paying attention, okay? But seriously, here's another image. Very familiar one in the center of our sanctuary. Here's an image of Christ on Calvary. Christ crucified. With Paul in the Bible, you and I say, "For I have resolved to know nothing except Christ and him crucified." We thank God that he sent his one and only Son to be our Savior. And in addition to the powerful picture of Jesus at Calvary, you and I have another very different artistic image of Jesus. You can see it here in a familiar object behind our baptism font, right next to the lectern and the Christ candle. The risen Christ on our processional cross. Yes, in the season of Easter, we give thanks. The Lamb of God who died to take away our sin also rose in victory. And that victorious Lamb, our Savior, has defeated sin and Satan and every disease and depression and every enemy and even death itself. You and I are on a path. Maybe not on the road to Emmaus, but we can relate to those two men on the road to Emmaus. Do we recognize Jesus in our everyday lives? Life as we knew it and know it is completely different now. Our eyes have been opened to many new realities. It is surreal to have to enter Snooks on one entrance with barricades and to be diverted into different areas of the store, and as we exit, to be pounded as we head home with our groceries. At times it feels as if we're living in some movie. We are all doing a bunch of talking and laughing and running and worrying and organizing and planning and much more. And in all of it, do we recognize Jesus among us, with us, on the way? We pray that Jesus would open our eyes to see him in our lives. For great is his faithfulness. His love is inseparable and never-ending. Christ is with us always, even to the end of the age. What good news, what comfort he gives us. Do you recognize Jesus in this picture? This is Sam, a.k.a. Jesus, serving people in the emergency department, a nurse, a good Lutheran young man, a hero among us in healthcare, sharing the hope of Christ and his compassion. There's a beautiful passage for us to remember, Philippians 2, verse 4. Let each of you look not only to his own interest, but also to the interest of others. That's simply saying, love your neighbor as you love yourself. That's why even as you and I take care of our own wants and needs, we continue to look beyond self. We continue to serve our neighbor, one another, to share our blessings. We continue to honor healthcare heroes with a big parade. We continue to thank those in our community, serving our Savior and society. This is what you and I do as Christians. We share and serve and love our neighbor with the love of Christ. Do we recognize Jesus? He's active through us, living out the golden rule. Matthew 7, it says, whatever you wish that others would do to you, do also unto them. For thus is the law and the prophets. Do you know who this is? Do you recognize Jesus in this picture? There he is, working through her, a new nurse named Rachel. Rachel, an amazing enamel member and alum and a terrific human hero serving and sharing Christ's hope and medical help with her patients. Do you know who this is? Do you recognize Jesus? There he is again, looking to her, Jenna, as she makes her parents very proud and a bit nervous, serving those facing medical emergencies. And you and I can see Jesus working in many other vocations as we continue to go around town with our masks on, doing the essential things we choose still to do. Hey, I saw Jesus yesterday behind the Schnucks pharmacy counter, plexiglass, serving hundreds of people their prescriptions. I saw Jesus serving others yesterday behind a desk and a makeshift barricade at the U.S. Post Office behind Schnucks as I bought stamps and mailed 61 letters. You and I can recognize Jesus. He's caring for us and assuring us of his presence and love in many, many ways. Do you recognize Jesus in your life right now? There he is, or she is, and the students in our 8th grade at a Zoom teaching session, continuing to learn and to share and to grow. We see Jesus in this divine service, through word and through prayer and praise and music and confession and absolution and profession of faith and all of God's blessings. We hear Jesus speaking to us in the benediction in a number of minutes, those good words of God spoken on our lives. And yes, we recognize Jesus as we worship him in this service. Here's a picture of Jesus again. A group of our members joyfully serving, smiling, delivering Easter lilies to 21 of our senior homebound members. Oh, I wish you could have seen the joy in their faces when they received this surprise, beautiful, aromatic Easter lilies. Remember Philippians 4, rejoice in the Lord always, even during a pandemic. I will say it again, rejoice. Do you recognize Jesus on this road sign? That's the Emmaus road. Jesus walked this and he explained to those two sad and overwhelmed and confused men on the road to Emmaus how everything that had happened, it only made sense in light of one thing, the word of God, fulfilled through the law and the prophets by Christ. What is your home address? Where do you live? Do the children watching know your address? So it's a good thing to know and remember. My address is out right on the edge of St. Charles, right at the road that begins St. Peter, on Compton Parkway. On what road do you live? Maybe not on the road to Emmaus, but maybe right now you live on this road, Crazy Road. Do we recognize Jesus living on this crazy path right now at crazy times? Yes, everything is crazy, but take heart. We have good news that is crazier than all of the crazy bad news. Jesus says, take heart. Here on earth you will have problems, but I have overcome your problems. And every negative you face on earth. Now that's crazy. Crazy awesome. Take heart, Emmanuel. Fear not, Emmanuel. God has this. We recognize Jesus. We're in his living and loving hands. Our journey may be crazy right now, but we're on the path leading to everlasting life with Jesus in heaven forever. And in the meantime, I'm sure that we learn to be back on this path, the road of normalcy. Normal road, whatever it is to be normal. And I think that we recognize the path back to normal, it will not be a simple or easy path to traverse. In fact, it will likely be much harder to reopen everything than it is to shut down everything. Forgive me for being blunt, but every one of you, whatever your age, my advice to myself and to you is this: chill out, relax, pray often, trust in Jesus, be patient, be flexible, forgive one another often. With God's help, we will figure this out. We'll make mistakes. We'll have many emotions. There are no easy or right answers, but God will guide and provide and help. God is our refuge and strength, and ever-present help in time of trouble. It's a time of intense emotion and anxiety. I know that I have been a bozo, a.k.a. a sinner, many times throughout these crazy times. I've been grumpy and impatient and said and done things I regret often. To my family, to our staff, to friends, to strangers, forgive me. And all of us have to admit our mistakes, our sins, and ask for that forgiveness often, from those around us and from our God. But isn't that the way it is every day of life for sinners, living in forgiveness? Do we recognize Jesus? Yes, we see him every morning. We hear him every day when the birds are chirping. Being reminded that our God who takes care of the birds will much more care for us. He says, do not worry, do not be anxious. Do we recognize Jesus, our good shepherd? He's there walking with us, guiding us. I have to admit, I did not sleep well the past few days. One night, I woke up at 3 a.m., and I just could not get back to sleep. My mind was racing, and finally I got out of bed, I went into our basement, and I started praying, and then I started reading the Psalms. And I opened up to Psalm number 4. Try reading and pondering Psalm number 4. Today, anytime, if you have a hard time sleeping, I highly recommend it. It's way better than Zippo or alcohol. God's word and prayer are the best anti-insomnia meditations ever. There is a very neat saying. One of those you would see on the front sign, the old one out in front of our sanctuary. There's a saying it asks, can't sleep? Don't count sheep, talk to your good shepherd. Can't sleep, don't count sheep, talk to your good shepherd. Do we recognize Jesus? He's there in his word. Turn to his word. Pastor Ryan shared with me, sent me a text last Sunday. He said, man, it's one of my favorite times of the week. Teaching Bible study at 9:30 to a big Zoom group where you can watch it anytime. And lately, maybe you should do some diving in the scripture. I read 1 Corinthians 15 recently. How amazing. Familiar, but it takes on new meaning. And one day I did a deep dive into John 20 and 21, the resurrection story. And I heard anew Jesus say, "Peace be with you." He said it 3 times, "Peace be with you," to his disciples then, "Peace be with you," to his disciples now, "Peace be with you," to you and me. This threefold repetition of Christ's promise of his peace and presence in our lives. How beautiful. And I was so excited to be reminded in John 20 and 21. References back to Isaiah and the Psalms, showing, magnifying how everything that happened to Jesus fulfills all of God's prophecy, even as Jesus pointed out on the road to Emmaus. It points to him. It's true for you, it's true for me. Do we recognize Jesus? Yes, we do. By grace through faith and the power of the Spirit. And with those two on the road to Emmaus, you and I say that psalm that we sang before the sermon. They say that it's said in Luke 24, "Stay with us. Stay with us, Jesus." And Luke says, so Jesus went in and stayed with them. And then he was at table with them. He took the bread and blessed it and broke it and gave it to them. And their eyes were opened and they recognized him. Jesus, open our eyes and our hearts and our minds to see you in our lives. Yes, Emmanuel, he lives. We recognize Jesus everywhere. He's with us. He guides us. He provides for us. He cares for us. He loves us. Amen.